today is mostly on hands-on deck. Usually it's a workshop where we have more participation in terms of actually running the wallets and showing how to do things. So this is a very quick presentation of the warm-up introduction into this type of hands-on deck, all hands-on deck workshop. Um, but basically, the idea is to discuss the different types of cryptocurrency wallets that are out there. So we understand that there are different types of wallets. We're also going to look at the type in terms of two categories of these wallets. One's a non-custodial and custodial. And as we go through the presentation, I'll point out which of these are custodial and non-custodial. We're also going to look at best practice for in terms of the safety of these crypto wallets. And we're going to look at also whether we need a single wallet or not, or a multi-currency wallet, and where would we use a single and where will we need a multi-currency wallet. We're also going to talk about, in terms of Bitcoin Lightning wallets and the Bitcoin blockchain, there's wallets for that, and there's a Lightning layer 2, kind of like sidechain or upper layer type of connectivity that happens called the Lightning Network. We're also going to try and see if possible to set up a BTC wallet if possible. Maybe this pertains to an actual live webinar where there's more participation. But let's start with different types of cryptocurrency wallets. You have desktop wallets. These are software programs that can be downloaded to your laptop or PC. These wallets work even when the internet is not available. So you could have this wallet working in an isolated type of scenario where there is actually no internet. There's also, they run on different types of operating systems. It could be Linux, it could be Mac, it could be Windows. The typical ones that are out there in terms of very high-level security versions of Bitcoin-specific wallets. Some of these examples are Electrum, Bisq, and Spectre. Electrum being one of the grandfathers, the original wallets when Bitcoin was more or less at the early stages. Electrum came out and started to create a lot of features. Until today, it's a very good operating open project in terms of the functionalities of Electrum. They have also a server version of this as well. Bisq is a decentralized exchange. It has a built-in wallet as well. Same function, same features. It's the idea here is that you have a decentralized exchange where you can exchange Bitcoins peer-to-peer versus having a centralized party. There's also no, let's call it smart contract algorithm that you have to worry about. It's actually using an escrow where you actually lock, both parties lock the tokens, or the Bitcoins in this case. You also have Spectre. Spectre is type of desktop wallet that connects to an Electrum server, for example. So it connects to a node. So you could have your own, to increase privacy, security, etc. You could have your own node running, let's say your node that manages the blockchain, and this Spectre is the front end desktop that connects to it. So there's different types of desktop wallets out there. Then you move into the mobile wallets. These are obviously these are handheld apps that are extremely popular because they're handy. That you can very mobile, available on your different platforms, if it's Android or iOS. It's very handy because you carry these devices with you at all times. So you got your mobile wallets. Some of the examples out there: Android has Samurai Wallet, very popular Bitcoin wallet that has a lot of features in it that make it a very secure wallet. It's a little bit high end in terms of security, but obviously we'll talk about other wallets that perform the same thing. But these are purely Bitcoin wallets, with a slight. Some of them have Lightning embedded in them. Then you have a Blockstream, which is another type of Blockstream Green, which is another type of wallet that also allows you not just Bitcoin, but allows you to put sidechain liquid assets, which are moving into the realm of Wall Street, basically, financial institutions. So these are also mobile wallets that are highly reliable and secure mobile wallets. They're both designed for iOS and Android. You also have another type of cryptocurrencies wallets, which are um, cold wallets, warm wallets, and finally hot wallets. These are all different types of categories of these type of cold wallet of wallets. So let's start talking about what is a cold wallet. So a cold wallet is an offline, a very secure type of wallet where basically your private keys are actually offline. They're not connected to the internet. Usually they're used for big amounts of holdings in terms of asset valuation, and they're not hackable because they're not physically connected to the internet. So you would have to hack the actual protocol of Bitcoin, which would make Bitcoin unusable. And since that's not going to happen anytime soon, the only way you can hack these type of wallets is that if you get physical access to them. So it makes them highly secure. But there's the convenience factor because you have to move that cold wallet into what we call these warm wallets, which is the next one, or hot wallets. But the warm wallets, it's used in combination of hardware wallets type connection, which we mention a little bit later, and they have a type of connection to the internet and some kind of online connection. So the warm wallet is kind of like in the middle. It will have no connection and connection. The private keys, in some way, shape, or form, touch the internet or not. So these are the fuzzy area in which they call them warm wallets. And then finally, you have the hot wallets. These are kind of like the mobile wallets where you have the key embedded in the phone. You have saved somewhere on the internet. These are online. Uh, so they need net or internet access. They're less secure than cold wallets, but are very useful for having multiple frequent transactions because you have the ability to make the transaction immediately at that moment with whatever blockchain you're interacting with. Versus in case of a cold wallet, you have to physically go to the location, grab that cold wallet, and be able to bring it into the blockchain. Um, so then we have online web wallets, which are basically what we call legacy bank or mobile wallets, and these are basically these mobile wallets are online wallets basically. They're usually your bank basic um, type of account wallets. A lot of exchanges right now have both a type of online web wallet where you can see your account balance, et cetera, but they keep obviously the private key. It's with the exchange, but they have a different version that allows you to download a different type of wallet on your mobile that keeps the private key on your wallet as a hot wallet. Um, this is a typical online wallet is what the legacy bank system has been using for 20 years or so. They're less secure, but large institutions have multiple co-signers. So you might have different co-signers. So let's say 2 out of 3 different signatures to make a transaction. They could all be online web wallets because they're much more secure because you need to hack two individuals at least of this type of say contract that you have set up to perform this type of transaction. But it requires a participation, so it's not that handy for an individual. Coinbase, BitGo, CoinKite have these type of implementations. Then you move into what we call paper wallets. Paper wallets are basically they store the actual private key and public address in a QR form or some kind of digital form on a printed piece of paper. Um, the downside of this is that it's prone for humidity and hazards like fire hazards, for example, or flooding or whatever. You might lose these private keys if you keep them in a paper format. But they're kind of handy because you can print it and you can store it at a bank vault, for example, and it could be part of your will or something like that for future generations or for your children. But the other thing you have to keep in mind when you print these let's call it private keys on these pieces of paper, the actual printing process means that your third party, in this case, is this printer that lives on your office or on your home, which also has a literally copy that's called a queue, the printer queue keeps a copy of that. So your private key could be stored in some kind of hard drive inside uh, a printer. Not all printers are like that, but but most printers have that capability. So you got to be aware of that vulnerability or that risk. Then we move into the hardware wallets, which are they basically resemble a very simple flash drive. They're safe and easy to use. They use they call it cold storage. They fall into the cold storage type of device. Are great for transferring private keys and kind of withstand hazards, unlike paper. So this is more like a hardware version of it, of the paper wallet, basically. What it means is that the private key is stored, instead of being on a printed paper, it's stored in an enclave. They call it computer science, an enclave, which is kind of like a one-way writing thing, kind of where you put the private key. It could either be one time that you write that into the hardware, so you can't erase it, or you can multiple read writes, but with the functionality of having to physically manipulate the hardware, because it has simple displays and simple buttons in it. Some of these are crypto steel, which is not even doesn't even have a display or any electronics in it. It's actually a piece of plate steel. It's kind of like, think of it as a paper wallet, but made out of steel, where you can type in the private keys in there. This is obviously perfect for fires or flooded, because it's forever. It's embedded in steel, right? Then you have Cold Card. These are the type of hardware wallet. Trezor, Ledger, the very popular hardware wallets, and they're very effective and provide different functionalities. In terms of Bitcoin wallets specifically, the idea here is that the wallets, not just Bitcoin, but in the case of Bitcoin, has it has access to all. Not only doesn't it have the private keys, it also has access to all of using that private key, has access to all of the transactions in the blockchain, because the blockchain is kind of like a very slow SQL databases. So this gives you access into that database, and whatever transactions you perform, you can either read, write, or mostly read and view all the transactions in the blockchain. So that's one of the functions of the Bitcoin blockchain. Another function of these type of software wallets, in the case of Bitcoin, is also the mining functionality. So you might never be a miner, but the miners will be using the same kind of software to perform their mining activities. Again, for sure, Satoshi Nakamoto used these type of wallets. He actually made the blueprint, and he made the first GitHub repository where people could compile their own wallets based on the white paper that he created. And then under those type of wallets, including the Bitcoin wallet, you have what they call non-custodial and custodial. Yeah, this is where you can differentiate between paper, hardware wallet, online wallets, that type of thing, because the non-custodial is where you have possession of the private keys. So the custody falls on you. That's why it's called non-custodial. Custodial means that the third party is, you're trusting some third party with your private keys. Those are online Bitcoin wallets, for example, or online crypto wallets. The idea here is the possession and control over these private keys. So one of the best practices for cryptocurrency wallets are you need to first make sure there's a constant backup of these wallets in a regular basis. Now, obviously, it's not like you're constantly saving the document. They're constantly backing it up. What they mean by backup your regular wallet regularly is testing that backup as well. Because at the moment you create a wallet, one of the things that you have to do is secure this private key. And then the way to secure the private key is not like you save the private key. You have to encrypt the private key, and then you save it, right? So what happens is that the application, the wallet will actually ask you for a 12 to 24 word phrase. This is basically a very fancy word of calling a password, but it's just 12 English dictionary words that you have to write down, memorize, print, whatever you want to do with it. And the wallet itself will do, after you perform that task, which is basically securing those 12 to 24 words, is creates a PIN or foot or fingerprint. And what that does, it actually uses those 12 words to make access to let the wallet go out and use that private key, because you'll be able to unencrypt that for that transaction at that moment, asking you for a fingerprint or the PIN. Obviously, if you put the wrong PIN a few times, or wrong fingerprint, will never execute, and it will actually disable. What it does, it kills all those 24 words or 12 words, and then it's going to force you to restore the wallet. That's where the wallet regularly being backed up means that you actually perform a, hey, I lost my wallet, I lost my phone, I erased my data, I want to restore. So then you go to your physical location where you have the 12 to 24 words and you restore the wallet. That's what back up your wallet regularly means. Fortify your wallet, basically security means what we just talked about, that putting a PIN, putting a password, making sure that you enable, because it will ask, some of these wallets will ask you, do you want to enable the use of fingerprint every time you access the wallet or make a specific transaction over a certain amount, et cetera, et cetera. So those are types of fortifications of that wallet security. So as well as establishing maybe even two-factor authentication to the wallet, all these kind of things, face recognition. This is obviously best practice to do, right? Make sure you upgrade the wallet software in a timely manner, meaning that good habit is to update your software on a constant basis. That includes your mobile wallets, your desktop wallets, any types of wallets that or software that you use. You make sure that you are in a constant upgrade mode, let's call it that way, right? In the case of Bitcoin, the reason why we want to upgrade software in a timely manner is that some of the blockchain upgrades happen on the blockchain side. So you could end up that your wallet, let's say, uses a specific old version, because Bitcoin makes most of these upgrades, specifically Bitcoin makes all these upgrades backwards compatible. So your wallet might be, let's say, an old version of the wallet that has an old version of the way in which it sends addresses to customers and clients, right? You might have some disadvantage in terms of fees are higher because you're using a different older version of the private key or the address. So it might be a good idea to at least once a year, usually this is historically speaking, to go ahead and move these addresses, these Bitcoins, from let's call it a legacy address to a non-legacy address. So you've not only upgraded the software, but you have actually migrated the Bitcoins from one location to another. Think of it as this: like, so if you have a Bitcoin on the blockchain, it's like having a piece of property in Manhattan, right? But you let's say you live downtown Midtown Manhattan, right? That's your address, and they're doing some kind of construction and they're making this beautiful upscale version of your building in upstate New York or upstate, some upstate Manhattan, or near Central Park, somewhere up there, that makes it more safety in terms of safety, flooding, etc. You might want to, so yeah, physically in a theoretical way, it's very difficult to move a building, but in virtual world, you could do this. You could literally move your building, your property that is in Midtown Manhattan, up to or lower Manhattan up to Midtown or the Central Park, right? Move the building there, right? So this is what they call consolidation. So it's very important to actually move into these new neighborhoods. I call it this way. You're moving without any charge. You move to a new neighborhood and you get new facilities, new schools, new security, etc. So this is very good to be able to have. There's another part, which is what we call single or multiple currency wallets. Basically, what this means is these are wallets that are multi-blockchain digital wallets that can keep your numerous currencies neatly organized in one perfectly safe place. That's what it boils down to. So you instead of having to open a Bitcoin wallet or a Stacks wallet or a Ethereum only wallet, or and Ethereum was one of the pioneers in this with MetaMask and Trust Wallet, some of the most famous wallets out there. But the idea here is that you can have a wallet that has one, say, backup private key. So multiple phrase, 12 or 24 words, that will back up not only one private key, but multiple private keys together. And these private keys are one for Bitcoin, one for Ethereum, one for Polkadots, one for Stacks. You can have multiple wallets, multiple currencies, but only that one safe way to back them up. So it's a very obviously more convenient way to have these things. So you have to weigh in your risk factors. How do you really want to have all your eggs in one place? All your wallet secured by uh, one 12-word phrase or 24-word phrase, right? Um, you can get a quick look at our account balances in different cryptocurrencies. So when you open the wallet, it uses this, because you provide the fingerprint or the PIN, it allows you to go into all those multiple blockchains and be able to give you a balance of all of these different coins that you have in that wallet, because it has the private keys, that has access to the private keys of all those blockchains. And in some cases, it provides a very unbeatable security. But then again, you have to think about it, because just 12 words can open a can of worms in terms of all these treasures that are stored in this one wallet. So yeah, it's unbeatable security, but yeah, it's one place where that could be beaten in terms of security, because you have much more value. Trusting third parties exchanges with your account is about to have repercussions, basically, meaning, we talked about the web wallets, or you're trusting the exchanges with that. And by having a multi-currency crypto wallet will give an immense peace of mind, because you don't have to keep those wallets in that exchange, especially if you have an exchange and you keep that you have online wallet and you have multiple coins in there. If the exchange goes down, for example, which has happened in the past, you lose all your coins. If you had them on your multi-currency wallet, that wouldn't be the case. Okay, so then we move into Bitcoin wallets and or Lightning wallets, meaning I say and or because you can have a wallet that's only Bitcoin, you can have a wallet that's only Lightning, and you can have a wallet that's both, right? So Bitcoin wallets are very, they mostly focus on slow transactions in terms of, in the crypto world, obviously it's faster than in the legacy world, but you're talking about 10 minutes for each transaction or each confirmation. And it's used mostly for store of value over time. So that's the idea behind storing value in Bitcoin, specifically in the Bitcoin wallet. Whether that's a Bitcoin wallet / Lightning wallet, it's the same idea here, is that you are storing Bitcoins in a Bitcoin wallet address, and you do it for store of value over time. So we're talking 4, 5, 6, 7 years that you're going to keep, they call it HODL the Bitcoins. This is the way to do it. Then you move into Lightning wallets. These are fast transactions, and usage is mostly for transfer of value over space. So now we're not worried about time. We're worried about, can this transfer happen to another individual or another entity in an instant, and I no longer have it possession. So in other words, finality happens at that moment that you make the transaction. So you don't care about storing it for more than 4, 5, 6, 7 years. You're more story about the confirmation is in real time. I'm settling at the moment. So final settlement happens at a real time basis. And this is not known even in the legacy world that uses, let's say, digital money. We don't have that at the moment. Two examples of these type of wallets are the Moon wallet. Very easy, user friendly. It has this idea of 12, well, they call them eight different codes that you have to write down or keep track of, which are the ones that encrypt that private key. But that private key also allows you to open in a custodial way. So it's kind of like a custodial way, because they're opening channels for you in the Lightning side. So it gives you both flavors. It gives you the ability to have a balance on Bitcoin and have a balance on Lightning, or receive, let's say, Bitcoins via Lightning addresses or invoices, or receive via Bitcoin address, or send too. So the same idea. Blue wallet performs the same way. Just the GUI and the look and feel is different for both of them. Different approaches, different ways of doing it, but they both perform the same idea. And there's slight differences between the two, slight flavors, etc. So setting up the first Bitcoin wallet, it's like Michael Saylor has famously said, "Cash is a melting ice cube." Okay, what he's saying here is that saying, you know, set up your Bitcoin wallet, put some Bitcoins in it, and just wait for it. Because what's happening is that if you keep that money in the legacy world, say the fiat currency, your inflation will melt it away. That's what he's basically saying. So basically, this is the move into Bitcoin. The idea here is that it's a static supply over long term. We know it's 21 million. And that's never going to change. It's food for thought. So let's do it.